Let's go and talk about mistakes that I see students make when they are simplifying radical expressions. In this video, I'm going to go over 3 different types of common mistakes that year after year, I always would have a student that would make these mistakes. And I don't want you to make these same mistakes, especially if you're taking a test or a quiz. So let's go over the first one, which is going to be, fairly common every time. It always trips up students, especially when they're like first beginning understanding simplifying radical expressions. So this one is the cube root of a to the 12th, b to the 15th. Now, a lot of times when I'm introducing or instructing on simplifying the square root, the cube root, the fourth root, I tell students to always look for this. Like if I can get my variable to the same power, right, as my index, then I know that can simplify down to just that base, right, which would be a. So if it's the square root, I'm looking for something to the second power. If it's the fourth root, I'm looking for something to the fourth power. Then I can simplify it and take it outside of the radical. Now, obviously, you can see that in this example, we have something to the 12th and the 15th power, right? And so what we need to do is use the power rule. And what the power rule states, if you remember the power rule, let me actually just write it down here. For exponents, if I have like x to the n raised to the nth power, remember, if you have, all you simply need to do is multiply them to x to the n times m, okay? So when you have a exponent raised to a power, you multiply the powers. Now, what I want to do then is I want to rewrite this 12 so I can take the cube root of it. But what are the mistakes that students will make? Well, the first one is kind of just a silly mistake, is they'll say, oh, well, 12, I can rewrite that as 6 times 2. And they'll say a to the 6th, times 2, or a to the 2nd times 2. Unfortunately, that's going to be incorrect because, ladies and gentlemen, again, we're trying to get something to the third power. So yes, even though 12 is divisible by 6 and 2, that's not the way we want to write it out. So then they say it needs to be written with a 3. And so they look at maybe 15 and maybe they're like, get it, oh, 15. Well, I can rewrite that as a b cubed to the 5th power. And again, the mistake here is, guys, we always want the 3 to be on the outside, okay? So the proper way we'd want to be able to rewrite this, I say this all the time, especially when you have something to higher powers and there's multiple factors, we always want to think this as divisible by 3, but we want the 3 to be on that outside. So 12, I know, is going to be a to the 4th, or 4 times 3, right? So I can rewrite this problem as a to the 4th to the 3rd power, right? And then 4 times 3 is 12. We're good to go here. Here, all I simply need to do is just rewrite this. So it's b to the 5th cubed. Now, when I introduce the cube root of both those expressions, I'm just going to be left with a to the 4th and b to the 5th. Following that kind of idea, the index and the power are inverse operations of each other. So we're just going to left with a to the 4th, b to the 5th. Very common mistake. Make sure whatever your index is, that's what you write it on the outside when you're using the power rule, and just make sure that you use the correct factors. All right. Example number 2 where students make mistakes. And this is a classic one. It just goes back into our rules of exponents, ladies and gentlemen. Or I'm sorry. Just goes back into, our rules of radicals, not exponents. But a lot of times students will see that 4, they see an x squared, they see a 9, and they're like, oh, I can take the square root of those values. So why don't I just go ahead and do that? And so what they'll do is they'll break this up, because notice how like I broke this up. Like you can separate this. I didn't actually explain this. Over here, you can break this up into the cube root of a to the 4th cubed times the cube root of b to the 5th cubed, right? You can break up the product of 2 radicals into separate radicals. So a lot of students will see a problem like this and they'll say, well, let's just go and do the same thing, right? Why don't I break this up into a 4x squared minus the square root of a 12x and then plus the square root of 9y? Because I can take the square root of 4x squared, I can take the square root of a 9, so that would make sense, right? Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot do that. We cannot break up radicals across addition and subtraction, okay? So again, what we need to look for is what could I take, that's supposed to be an x, that's supposed to be an xy, I forgot to write. What can I do so therefore I have a single expression that is raised to the 2nd power, because this is going to be the square root. So this is a xy plus 9y. Okay, 9y squared. Did I not write that? Yeah, I wrote that. 9y. I don't think I wrote the 9y squared before. Okay. There we go. I was wondering, I was like, yeah, that's supposed to be an XY. Sorry about that. I wasn't thinking, I didn't write out the full problem in there. So we have 4x squared. So they're like, yeah, I can take the squared, 4x squared, 9y. No, it doesn't work. So I need to be able to see if I can simplify this, factor it, so I can rewrite this as something squared. And so immediately what makes me look out, whenever I see the first term as well as the last term, guys, are square terms, I'm immediately thinking of the perfect square trinomials. And so a perfect square trinomial would say that the first two terms would be like 2x and 2x. My last two terms would be a 3y and a 3y. Since my middle term is negative, that means that would be that and that would be that. Now all I need to do is just verify that the inner and the outer is going to give me a 12x. You could think of it as a 2 times xy, or 2 times the first term times the second term. And again, you could see that's a negative 6xy. This would give you a negative 6xy. So therefore, this can be rewritten as square root of 2x minus 3y. Quantity squared. Now that we see I have the square root of something squared, that's going to give me, I can undo those inverse operations and I could get a 2x minus a 3y. Now I'm going to add in a caveat, let x and y be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, meaning that we want to put a caveat, because a lot of times when we're talking about this in algebra 2 or in algebra 1, we just say let everything be positive numbers. But that's going to bring us now to my next one, which is the other last common mistake, especially when we get to algebra 2, is we don't go through, we don't say it has to be x. We now include absolute value. So you could include absolute value here, but that's why I wrote that in there, because I don't want to include two mistakes in one problem. So what if I had the fourth root of y to the 12th power? Now, obviously, we talked about this in the previous example. I don't want this to be y to the 4th raised to the 3rd power, right? I want to make sure I rewrite this as y cubed to the 4th power. Now I can see those are inverse operations, and then I get a final answer of y cubed. The problem is what if y was negative? If y was negative, then I would have a negative result, and we cannot take the even root, right? You cannot take the square root of a negative number, at least in our real number system. So what we do to verify or to make sure that our result is always going to be positive for even roots, we're going to put an absolute value. Now, if y was squared, anything squared or to an even power is always going to be positive. We don't need to do that, right? But if we have a variable raised to an odd power, we need to make sure we put absolute value. And a lot of students forget it. So remember, you cannot take the square root of a negative number. So let me kind of give you an example of why this makes sense. If I took the square root of 3 squared, right? What would that be? I'd say, oh, well, Mr. McLogan, that's going to be a 3. And if I say, what is the square root of negative 3 squared? Now, again, a lot of students would say, oh, well, that would just make sense. That's actually going to be a negative 3. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, no, that's actually not negative 3. That's actually a positive 3. Because if we simplify this, let me actually give myself a little bit more space. If I simplify this before evaluating, square root of 3 is square root of 9, which is going to be 3. Over here, negative 3 squared is square root of 9, which is equal to 3. Do you see? It doesn't matter if it's negative 3, if it's negative 3 or positive 3, they both give me the exact same answer, which is a positive 3. So that's important, because if I say square root of x squared, I know from these two examples, it's going to give me the x value of x, but I know x is positive. It doesn't matter if x was negative or positive, it's always giving me that positive result. So that's why, to show that when taking the even root of a value, you're always going to get that positive result, we need to make sure we use those absolute value. So it doesn't matter if it's a 4, if it's an 8, if it's a 16, or if it's 2, whenever you're taking the even root and you evaluate to a value that's raised to an odd power, just make sure you include those absolute value. Unless the directions have something where your values are only going to be positive integers. Okay, that is kind of the caveat we a lot of times use with algebra 1 before we introduce the absolute value. But ladies and gentlemen, these are the 3 common mistakes. I see them every single year. I don't want you to make those the same mistakes, but if you want to see other mistakes, tips, or just more examples of simplifying radicals, then check out my playlist that I have for you down in the description of this video, or the next video I have for you here. Cheers.